Hi everyone! In the last two episodes, you found out that a very long time ago, a group of explorers of 6 races settled in our solar system. When they finished rebuilding it for themselves, they got some unexpected guests. That was a fleet of ships with a 7th sentient race on board. The new arrivals turned out to be of a very shady background. Without any hesitation, the members of the research team offered all the help they could provide. And that was a mistake. Soon after, problems in relationships erupted everywhere. Today, you are going to find out who were the first wannabe murderers in the solar system. Also, I will uncover for you the name of the first spy. If this is your first time on this channel, please watch the video suggested in the upper right corner of your screen. You can find the link to it in the description under the video as well. It will help you understand what kind of content to expect from my channel. Also, I would like to kindly ask you to listen to the important information from the disclaimer that follows. If you already know the contents of the disclaimer, you can skip right to the main part of the video. Look at the chapters bar at the bottom of the video and choose what you like. Here goes the disclaimer. The content of the videos on this channel is just my opinion. It is based on conclusions that I have made by studying world mythologies and religions. Experts and researchers of mythology with scientific degrees do not share my opinion. I do not claim to know the truth. My videos are not science. They are not intended to be educational either. If it makes you feel more comfortable, consider them to be a fantasy story. Now, let's move on. Apsu was becoming more and more annoyed and angry at the Aesir and their accomplices. He started making plans about sending the disgruntled Watchers home and recruiting new ones. The Igigi could not allow that to happen. They could not afford to start their destructive influence all over again. The replacement Watchers might have been immune to their ability. Thus, Odin and the other 2 Aesir leaders suddenly got the idea of getting rid of Apsu somehow. There was a big problem though. Apsu was so powerful that he could single-handedly destroy the entire solar system in seconds. Each of the titans supporting him could wipe out the entire population of the 5th planet without much effort. The Aesir had nothing that could counter such power. And again, the solution came from the Igigi. They implanted into Odin's mind the idea of poisoning the Supreme Dragon. Taking advantage of the monitoring system installed by the Jotnar and the dwarves in Asgard, the conspirators followed Apsu everywhere. They wanted to study his habits so they can find the best moment to strike. In the process of studying their husband's habits, they realized that there was another issue. None of them was eager to become the one to deliver the blow. The Titans were known for their decisiveness and swiftness. No one wanted to get on their bad side. The conspirators decided to find someone expendable and unsuspecting. The Titans were out of the question. They disliked the Igigi from the very start. The recent behavior of the Watchers did not make that feeling better. Although there was a couple of Jotnar that Igigi managed to coerce, but they refused to take such a risk. The leaders of the 2 races needed someone who could get close to Apsu without too much difficulty or suspicion. After a long process of watching the target's entourage, the conspirators thought that they had found one. In Apsu's inner circle, there was a crossbreed, half Aesir on his father's side and half Jotnar on his mother's side. As he had much less strength than the pure-breed Jotnar, he was usually assigned less important tasks. Ymir decided that he could play on the vanity of the young and inexperienced being. He asked Odin, or Anu as the Sumerians called him, to invite the crossbreed for a chat. The name of that young person was Enki, according to Sumerian mythology. In Scandinavian mythology, His name was Loki. There was something, though, that neither Ymir nor Odin could have known. Enki was secretly in love with Teya. He did not experience romantic love for her, or had any sexual desires for her. The crossbreed loved her more than he loved his real mother. He considered her to be his role model. He admired her active nature, her talents, her kindness. Just the same as the leader of the research team, Enki loved life in all its manifestations. Just like her, Enki admired the diversity of life forms. They had very much in common, but no one knew about it except the crossbreed himself. He was quite surprised when he received the invitation from Anu. They had very little in common. Besides, Enki, being a very inquisitive young mind, was well aware of the tension between the Anunnaki and the Titans. When he learned about the mass extinction of life on the third planet, he was very upset and worried for his role model. Was it a mistake or negligence? It did not matter to him. In his eyes, nothing could justify such a loss of life. As a consequence, Enki did not feel too excited about the invitation. Unfortunately, there was no good reason to refuse it. His Anunnaki side urged him to show respect to a leader of the race. When the young crossbreed finally arrived, he was very surprised by the presence of one of the Igigi. He was smart enough, though, not to show it. Step by step, from afar, Ymir began to weave his web of words around the young mind. He asked a lot of seemingly inoffensive questions. He showed an almost genuine compassion. Likewise, he skillfully appealed to Enki's vanity and ambition. In different circumstances and with a different person, all those tricks would have worked. The crossbreed happened to be absolutely immune to Igigi's ability. And again, Enki pretended to be fully immersed in the conversation. He did it so well that even the experienced Ymir believed his acting. That's when, step by step, he began to lead the conversation towards the topic he wanted. Listening to the stranger, the younger guest began to understand what he was expected to do. He continued to politely nod and smile sheepishly. When the host decided that the first stage of recruitment was successfully over, they let the crossbreed go. When he left, they immediately sat in front of the monitoring system, following the potential recruits every step. Enki continued acting as if he bought into Mimir's lies. When he knew he was within the range of the monitoring systems, he pretended to be annoyed with working along with the Titans and their leaders. Occasionally, he even sabotaged the work of his colleagues. Only in small and not harmful things, of course. But neither Anu nor Ymir could know that. Apsu, who was trying to avoid seeing his spouse, got the habit of asking someone in his inner circle to deliver things Teya was requesting from him. Enki knew about it and happened to be nearby when the next item needed to be delivered. Having worked with Titans and dwarves, Enki knew how the monitoring system was working. He had been involved in its expansion and improvement many times himself. The crossbreed chose a convenient moment to go to Teya and gave her an info crystal that he prepared in advance. The info crystals were a means of storing and transmitting information. We could compare them to modern flash drives. Enki recorded on the info crystal his memories about the meeting with Anu. He also presented his thoughts on the further actions of the conspirators. Teya was surprised by his behavior, but didn't show it and continued acting normally. After Enki left, the leader of the expedition went straight to her residence. She assumed that the information was confidential. The Supreme Dragon watched the recording of the meeting and analyzed Enki's conclusions. She had no choice but to agree with him. That was the moment when she finally realized that something was going very wrong with her team. Using her access to the monitoring system, she began reviewing the records in reverse order. Supreme Dragons did not actually need the recordings from the monitoring system. She could read the infosphere of the entire solar system with no issues. Any past and present events were stored there. Accessing them was a very exhausting effort though. Thus neither she nor her husband used that ability too often. Enki's findings compelled the leader of the expedition to dig deeper into the situation that was taking such a twisted turn. What she discovered horrified her. The Igigi leaders had pulled into their mind games almost every member of her group. Mistrust of each other was blossoming everywhere. There was growing discontent, and even conflict started to surface. For the first time in her life, she heard arguments about one's race superiority over others. However, what saddened her most was her own neglect of her husband. He looked tired and extremely irritated. Somehow she sensed that Apsu was close to a psychological breakdown. The last thing Teya wanted was to drive her loved one to total mental and emotional exhaustion. For thousands of years, since the Igigi had arrived, her husband was carrying the burden of protecting her from things she did not want to hear. That's when she decided to give him a break from all the hard work and tensions. Knowing him well, she was sure that he would not agree to take a break without her. But she could not afford it. Because of her unwillingness to listen, her whole team was suffering. The Supreme Dragon decided to push aside all her projects and start preparing a plan to help everyone return to a normal life. She knew that the point of no return was long behind them. Then a seemingly viable plan arose in Teya's mind. However, she needed time to sort everything out. Her team was quickly falling apart. There was no way of stopping it. It was too late. The only way to fix everything was to allow everyone to see the consequences of following Igigi's ideas. Only her husband and most of the Jotnar seemed unaffected by them. She decided to take them out of the future picture, and Teya had an idea how to do it. She wanted them safe and sound for the time when everything was ready to get back to normal. All of them had so much unfinished work to complete. At the same time, the Supreme Dragon knew that she will need help. The Vanir always supported her and showed no signs of being affected by Igigi's influence. Enki seemed a good potential helper too. Almost all sentient races in the inhabited universe were communicating with each other by means of thought forms. It was an ability that worked when two beings were in direct sight of each other. Infocrystals, along with some other methods, were commonly used for remote communication. Only a small number of races were able to transmit thought forms over long distances. Supreme Dragons were one of those races. Thus she contacted Enki and transmitted him a set of coordinates for their next meeting. Recently, her team discovered a system of interconnected caves under the bottom of a large mass of water. They were planning to start some experiments there. It became clear that the system of caves will have to be used for a completely different purpose. The only way to get inside was by using a portal. Titans had the ability of creating them. The crossbreed inherited that ability also. They needed to meet and start working on a solution together. We'll take a break here today. If you want to know what happens next and you are not subscribed yet, subscribe to the channel and click on the bell to be notified of new videos. If you liked it, click like and share with your friends and acquaintances. I welcome your questions in the comments. I'll be making videos with answers to the most popular questions. I wish you an eternal future in the vastness of the universe.
Beware, beware, the Dragonborns come. For the darkness has passed. legend yet grows. You'll know that Dragonborns come.